My in-laws hired a man to crash my wedding, but I had the receipts that exposed everything. My in-laws actually paid some random guy to barge into our wedding and shout, "She's already married to me." I swear, the moment those words left his mouth, my husband's face went ghost white. And his family? Oh, they were grinning like they'd just won a prize. "Told you she was a liar," one of them said, smug as ever. Jake just stared at me with pure disgust in his eyes, until I calmly reached into my purse and pulled out a file that made those smug little smiles disappear real quick. This all went down last year, in Naperville, Illinois. I was 33 at the time. My ex-fiancé, let's call him Ryan, was 35. Jake and I had been together a little over 2 years when we got engaged. Things moved fast between us, but not in a reckless way. It felt like the natural next step. We had already lived together for more than a year. Sure, we had our share of disagreements, like any couple, but nothing out of the ordinary. We even did couples therapy before we hit any major bumps, just trying to get ahead of things, you know? We really believed we were building something solid. But there was one big problem: Ryan's family never warmed up to me. And no, I'm not just tossing that out there to play the victim, they made their feelings very obvious. His mom, we'll call her Nancy, had this icy way about her. She'd give me these fake smiles, and the questions she asked felt more like a job interview than a conversation. Stuff like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, financially? Not you both, just me. It was always like that, cold, calculated, condescending. His sister, Claire? Even worse. Picture Regina George from Mean Girls, all grown up, bitter, and not nearly as clever as she thinks she is. They always complained I was too private. Apparently, I didn't open up enough about my past. I didn't share old photos from my childhood. I didn't explain my job well enough. I'm a marketing strategist, by the way, but I stopped trying after the 3rd time someone said, "So, you do ads?" From what I can tell, they decided I was hiding something. Instead of just thinking maybe I was shy or maybe not dying to bond with them, which, let's be real, was true, they came to the conclusion that I was dangerous. Now, let me say this, Jake wasn't like them. At least not at the beginning. He always stood up for me. He'd say stuff like, "They've got trust issues," or "They did the same thing to my ex before they finally accepted her." But here's the spoiler, they never accepted her either. They never stop. We had a small wedding planned, nothing over the top. Just a cozy ceremony at this historic estate with a garden setup. I was nervous, of course, but mostly just excited. The place looked beautiful. We were doing our own vows. The crowd had gone quiet. The officiant had just started. Then it happened. Right at the part where they ask if anyone objects, this man stands up in the back row. He's wearing a crumpled-up suit, shirt hanging out, the whole thing looked messy and off. And he shouts, loud enough for people outside the tent to hear, "She's already married to me." The place went dead silent. For a second, I genuinely thought it had to be some kind of joke. I didn't recognize this guy. Never seen him in my life. But Ryan? The blood drained from his face in an instant. His eyes went wide, then narrowed. I looked at him like, what the hell is going on? I don't know this man. Nancy let out this dramatic gasp and slowly stood up, looking at Jake with this smug little nod, like everything was going according to plan. Claire leaned in and whispered something to her, then turned and gave me this nasty little smirk. Everything started happening so fast. The guy, let's call him Tyler, starts making his way up the aisle. He's holding some papers and saying we got married in Florida back in 2016. That I ran off and never filed for divorce. And now I'm committing bigamy. He holds up what he claims is our marriage certificate like it's some kind of sacred document. Jake turns to me, eyes wide, and asks, "What the hell is this?" I was shaking all over. I told him, I don't know this man. This isn't real. But Nancy jumps in, loud enough for everyone to hear, "We told you she was hiding things. She's not who she says she is." Claire piles on, "We warned you, this was all a scam." And the worst part? Jake didn't say a damn word. He just stood there, bouncing his gaze from Tyler to me to the papers in Tyler's hand. That silence from him? It cut deeper than all the yelling. Nancy and Claire thought they'd caught me. Thought they'd sprung their big trap. But what they didn't know was that I already knew something shady was coming. They'd been acting way too nosy about my past for weeks. Asking weird questions. Jake even admitted they were looking into me. So I did the only thing that made sense, I ran my own background check. I figured if they were gonna dig, I should know what they might find. It came back totally clean. But I didn't stop there. I had a feeling they'd take it further. Something in my gut told me this wasn't the end of it. So I reached out to the clerk's office in the Florida county where Tyler claimed we got married. I gave them my info and asked if there was anything on record. They replied and said there had been an attempt to register a marriage under my name, but it got rejected. The documents didn't match up, and there was no valid ID. Total forgery. It was never filed officially. So I had receipts. Literal proof that this whole stunt was fake. A paper trail to back it all up. I printed every bit of it and kept it in my purse, just in case. I even had emails. How I got those? Oh, I'll get to that. Something didn't sit right. A few days before the wedding, Claire left her iPad at our place after helping Jake with some design stuff. No big deal, except she left herself logged into her email. Now, I'll admit it. Curiosity got the best of me. Call it snooping if you want, but I opened it up. And right there, clear as day, were emails between her and someone named Tyler Brooks. One of the subject lines? Here's the script for the wedding interruption. My stomach dropped. I took screenshots of everything. Every message. Every detail. They'd orchestrated the whole thing like some kind of twisted play. Nancy had paid Tyler $5,000, through Venmo, of all things, and labeled it consulting. Claire coached him on exactly what to say and when. Their end goal? For Jaquito dumped me on the spot, right there in front of everyone we knew and loved. They didn't just want to break us up. They wanted to shatter me. Publicly. On what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, so I built my own case. Collected all the screenshots, printed the emails, added the court letter showing the marriage was fake. Even had a statement from a friend of mine in Florida, someone who'd seen Tyler hanging around Nancy's house months ago. Just in case, I filed for a restraining order against him too. Back at the ceremony, everyone was staring at me like I was some criminal on trial. The officiant looked totally lost. Jake still hadn't moved. Frozen. Not a word. So I took a deep breath and said, loud enough for every single person to hear, this man was paid to be here. Everything he just said is a lie. And I can prove it. Nancy let out a snort. Of course she'd say that, she muttered. Without another word, I reached into my purse, pulled out the folder, and handed it straight to Ryan. He flipped through it slowly. First the letter from the court. Then the screenshots. The emails. The money transfer. Even the witness statement. His hands started to shake. Then he turned to Nancy and asked, "Did you do this?" She didn't answer. I looked out at the crowd and said, "Look, I don't care what any of you think about me. But I'm not gonna stand here while someone accuses me of a crime that never even happened. If anyone wants the truth, it's all in that file." Tyler? As soon as I said the words police report and restraining order, he started backing up. Then he turned and basically sprinted out of the tent. Jake never said a word to me after that. He just stood there, still holding the file, jaw tight, eyes red. His whole family bailed before the reception even started. But me? I stayed. I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I sat at a table, all alone, and ate a slice of the cake I paid for. To this day, I'm not sure if Jake will ever really come to grips with what his family did. Honestly? I don't even know if I want him back. Part of me wants to move on and never look back, but another part? It wants revenge. Because here's the truth, they tried to destroy me. Publicly. At one of the most vulnerable moments in my entire life. And I'm not done with them yet. That night, I didn't sleep. I went back to our apartment by myself. Dress still halfway zipped, hair falling out, makeup smudged. I just sat on the edge of my bed for hours, staring at the wall. I wasn't even crying. I was just numb. Like the shock had turned everything inside me to stone. By 6 a.m., I checked my phone. No missed calls. No messages. Nothing from Ryan. But guess who did post something? Claire. A black screen with white text on her Instagram story. Sometimes the truth hurts. But lies hurt more. Hashtags? Hashtag family first and hashtag truth wins. The comments were full of people saying, "What happened?" and "So proud of you for speaking out." I felt sick. They were still pushing their narrative. Around 11 a.m., there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole. It was Ryan. He looked rough, bloodshot eyes, same suit from the night before, no tie, shirt all wrinkled. I opened the door, and all he said was, "Can I come in?" I didn't answer. Just stepped aside. We sat down in silence for a solid minute. Then he said, "I didn't know." I nodded, didn't say a word. "They told me they were just concerned," he went on. "That they were gonna run a background check. I didn't think they'd." I cut him off. "You believed him. You looked at me like I was garbage." He didn't argue. Just gave a slow nod. "I froze," he said. I panicked. I didn't know what to believe. I got up, grabbed the envelope with all the printed screenshots, and tossed it on the table. "Then you should have asked," I said. Not just stood there while I drowned. He said he wanted to fix things. That he'd cut off contact with Nancy and Claire, for now. That maybe we could get away together, clear our heads. So I asked him one question. "Did you tell them what they did was wrong?" Silence. "Did you yell at them the way you stared me down yesterday?" He looked at the floor. That was all the answer I needed. Over the next week, the fallout began. Rumors started swirling. People from the wedding reached out. One of Ryan's cousins messaged me on Facebook, said, "I'm so sorry about what happened. But I think you should know, they're telling people you forged the documents. That you're trying to frame Nancy." I couldn't believe it. Then my boss called. Someone had sent an anonymous email to HR, accusing me of having a criminal record, changing my name, faking my references. Thankfully, my boss came straight to me instead of just handing it off to HR. She believed me. "This is disgusting," she said. "Let me know if you want to take legal action." At that point, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. 3 days later, I get a text from Claire. "You should really stop pretending. You've already done enough damage. If you want this to go away, meet me. Just us. No drama." I showed the text from Claire to Ryan. He looked at it and said, "Don't go." But I had to. I needed to hear her say it with her own mouth. We met at this little diner off Route 59. Public place. Neutral ground. Safe. I made sure to record the whole thing on my phone, just in case. Claire walked in like she was the one running the place. Sat across from me, acting cool, sipping some overpriced smoothie like we were catching up for brunch. Then she leaned in, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You're not going to win. We protected Ryan. You embarrassed him. You embarrassed our whole family. And now you want to act like you're the victim?" I didn't blink. Just let her talk. She kept going. "You think waving around a little file and some screenshots makes you look smart? It makes you look desperate." And then, she said it. The part she probably never meant to say out loud. "Tyler was a friend of a friend. We paid him. But we didn't think he'd actually go through with it. That wasn't even the plan. He went rogue." I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You emailed him a script." She gave me a smug smile. "So? Prove it." I already had. Later that night, I got a call. It was Tyler. Yeah, the same guy who'd crashed my wedding and screamed that we were married. He sounded off. Slurred speech. Tired. Or maybe drunk. Or both. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Hey. I'm sorry. I didn't know they were gonna take it that far." I snapped back. "You stood up and accused me of being your wife." He paused. Then said, "They told me you were dangerous. That you scammed Ryan's last business. Nancy said you were gonna ruin him financially. She made it sound like I'd be saving him." And just like that, it hit me. He didn't even know it was fake until it was too late. He said, "I didn't want to do it. But I needed the money." Then he said the magic words, "I still have the original messages. I didn't delete anything." He sounded scared. Said Claire was threatening to sue him if he talked. Said she'd destroy his life. I told him to forward me every message he had. He did. All of it. The emails, the text threads, the screenshots, the call logs, even the script. I saved every last piece of it and put together a whole new file. Then I called a lawyer. Not just for defamation. Not just for emotional distress. But for criminal conspiracy. For interference with a legal ceremony. For harassment. And here's the kicker, Tyler said he'd testify. On the record. I figured that would be the end of it. I mean, I had the whole truth now. In writing. But I was wrong. I'd underestimated just how far Nancy and Claire were willing to go to win. A few days passed. Then Jake texted me, asking to meet one last time. I said okay. We met at a quiet cafe by the lake, close to his office. He looked worn out. Bags under his eyes, slumped shoulders, no spark left. "I know they lied," he said. "I read everything you sent. I confronted them. Nancy says it was all to protect me. Claire won't admit to anything. But I believe you now." I asked him, "And what are you gonna do about it?" He hesitated. "I don't know. They're still my family." I nodded. Slowly. "Then this is over." He didn't argue. Just looked away like he knew I was right. I stood up and walked out, again. Then something strange happened. Later that week, I got an email from a recruiter. Big-time job offer, marketing director at a luxury brand in Miami. Great pay. Relocation bonus. Fast track to VP. Thing is, I'd never applied for it. So I dug into it. The recruiter said they got my info from someone named L. Stevens. That name rang a bell. Then it clicked. Claire Stevens. Her full name, Emily Grace Thompson, used to be on her LinkedIn back when she was trying to make her consulting gig sound legit. I decided to play along. Set up a fake Zoom interview. Sat there, waiting to see who'd show up. And guess what? Nancy popped onto the screen, wearing a blazer and pretending to be the HR director for the brand. "I'm pleased to say we're very interested in offering you the position," she said. "But first, we just need to verify a few things: criminal history, past legal trouble, financial background. We take those things seriously here." I sat there, pretending to be all polite and professional. smiled, nodded, asked questions. When it ended, I sent an email to the real company. They'd never heard of Nancy. Or me. So now they weren't just smearing my name, they were impersonating corporate HR to dig up dirt on me. Tyler called again. This time he was full on panicking. They found out I sent you the emails, he said. Nancy won't stop calling. She said if I don't retract everything, they're gonna come after my sister. Said she's got a record and could lose everything if it gets out. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. Claire had copies of your ID. She sent them to me before the wedding. Said she got them off Ryan's laptop. She told me to use her driver's license number to file the fake marriage app. Said it'd make it look more legit. I just sat there, stunned. Couldn't even move. Not only did they fake a marriage, they used my real information to do it. They must have taken a photo of my ID at some point. Maybe when we booked flights. Maybe when I left my wallet near Claire. Who knows? This wasn't just about public humiliation anymore. This was identity theft. And then, like something out of a thriller, I woke up one morning to an anonymous email. No subject. One attachment. A PDF. Inside? A full transcript of Claire's texts with Nancy. Every last one. Turns out Claire was using a burner phone. And from that number, she sent texts admitting everything, hiring Tyler, plotting the wedding crash, even saying she hoped I'd completely lose it from all the stress. But there was one message that hit different. One line burned into my brain. I don't care if she ends up in the psych ward. Jake deserves better. The email that came with those texts? Sent from a Proton Mail account. No name. No trace. But the second I read through it, I knew. It was Tyler. He was flipping on them. And he wasn't the only one. A few days later, a woman messaged me out of the blue on Instagram. She said, "Hey, I hope this isn't weird, but I think I dated your fiancé once. Ryan, right? I saw something about a wedding video floating around." Wedding video? She sent me a link to a private Facebook group titled, Justice for Ryan. Wanna guess who made it? Yep, Claire. Over 200 members. All handpicked by her, some family, some friends, some complete strangers. And it was filled with garbage. Post after post twisting the truth. She tried to marry my brother while still married to a man in Florida. Stay away from people like this. Don't let sociopaths win just because they cry louder. Photos of me at the wedding, crying, disoriented, my hair a mess, they used them like ammo. It wasn't just gossip. It was a full-on smear campaign. The woman told me Claire did the exact same thing to her when she dated Ryan. Faked messages to make it look like she was cheating. Then ran to the family and told them she was unstable. I asked if she'd be willing to give a statement. She didn't even hesitate, said yes. And she wasn't the only one. Turns out, Claire had been pulling this kind of stunt for years. Every time Jake got close to someone serious, Claire would step in, sabotage it, then play the savior. This whole thing? It wasn't just about me. At this point, I had a full arsenal. Tyler's full confession. A recording of Nancy faking a job interview. Proof of identity theft. Screenshots from Justice for Ryan. Statements from multiple ex-girlfriends. And a real lawyer prepping both civil and criminal charges. But Ryan? He was still torn. He messaged me 2 nights ago and said, "If you go through with this, my family will never speak to me again." I told him flat out. Then you'd better choose fast. And I meant it. Then came this fundraiser. One of Ryan's cousins works in nonprofit, and the family held a benefit dinner in Lake Forest to support her latest project. It was mostly extended family, a few friends, and people I didn't know. I hadn't planned on going. But 3 hours before the event, Jake texted me. "Please come. I want everyone to hear the truth. I need to say something." Now, I didn't fully trust him. Not yet. But I needed that moment. I needed closure. I needed to see him say it in front of the same people who had judged me silently and never once asked for my side. So I went. The room went dead quiet the second I walked in. Felt like I'd just stepped into a courtroom. Nancy saw me first. Her jaw locked tight, then she forced this fake smile like everything was totally normal. Claire spotted me next. She leaned towards some woman I barely knew, another aunt, the kind who never looked me in the eye, and whispered something. They both laughed. I found Jake near the front. He looked nervous. Sweating. Fidgeting. He stepped up to the podium and tapped the mic. Then he said, "Before we talk about fundraising tonight, I need to talk about something else. Something personal. Something ugly." He started slow, apologizing to everyone in the room. Then he laid it out. "At my wedding, a man showed up and claimed my fiancé was already married. Most of you probably saw the video. Some of you probably believed it." He paused. I believed it. For a moment. I believed it because I didn't trust the woman I was marrying, not the way I should have. Then, slowly, he turned his gaze toward Nancy and Claire. My family planned it. They hired that man. They used stolen information. They paid him to humiliate her. And I stood there and let it happen. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People were whispering, what, and no way. Nancy's eyes went wide like she'd just seen a ghost. Claire jumped up, face bright red. Ryan, that's enough. Nancy barked. But he didn't stop. She had the proof, he said. I saw all of it. The emails. The money transfers. The texts. And I saw how you tried to get her fired after the wedding, Jake continued, his voice steady but heavy. I saw the Facebook group too. Claire, you made that. You invited people. You lied about her, and you lied about the women before her. I talked to them. Claire's face twisted. This isn't the place, she snapped. But it was too late. People were already whispering. Then someone stood up, Ryan's cousin, I think. Wait, you faked a job interview? Her voice rang across the room. Are you serious? Claire opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just silence. Then Nancy stepped forward, snatched the mic like she was taking control of a courtroom, and pointed straight at me. This woman, she said, has poisoned this family. She's manipulative. She turned my son against us. You don't know what she's done. I stood up. And for the first time in all this madness, I wasn't shaking. What have I done, Nancy? I asked. Other than love your son? Other than stay quiet while you tore me apart behind closed doors? Nancy turned to the crowd and said, I only wanted to protect my son. And then Ryan, finally, said what I'd been waiting to hear. No. You wanted to control me. You've been doing it for years. And I let you. But I'm done. Claire stormed out of the room. Nancy started to follow, but she couldn't get far. People were talking now, really talking. Not behind my back like before. This is insane. She should be arrested. That poor woman. A few people actually came up to me. One apologized. Another hugged me. One woman looked me straight in the eye and said, I believed them. And I'm so sorry. Jake stood beside me through all of it, quiet, worn out, but present. When it was over and we walked out together, he followed me to my car. Do you think we can fix this? He asked softly. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just told him the truth, maybe. But not now. 2 weeks later, Claire was officially served. Charges for identity theft, harassment. The civil case was in motion. My lawyer worked fast. Tyler signed his affidavit. All the ex-girlfriends submitted their statements. Even screenshots from that Justice for Ryan group were handed over as evidence. Nancy tried to settle quietly. Her lawyer reached out with an offer, money. A lot of it. I said no. I wasn't looking for a payout. I wasn't looking for hush money. I wanted something they couldn't write a check for. Accountability. As for Jake and me, I still don't know. We've talked. Really talked. The kind of conversations we should have had a long time ago. He's not perfect. He waited too long to speak up. But when he finally did, it cost him something. And he did it anyway. Nancy and Claire? They're out. The family doesn't talk to them anymore, not the ones who matter, anyway. But that doesn't mean the damage just disappears. I still find myself second-guessing everything. Still hesitate when my phone rings from a number I don't recognize. Still wake up sometimes in a cold sweat, hearing Tyler's voice echo in my head, she's already married to me. But now, there's something else too. Peace. Not the kind that comes from revenge. But the kind that comes from being seen, believed, respected. And most of all, free.